Welcome to the Reversion to the Mean podcast, hosted by Justin Castelli of RLS Wealth Management and Kevin of ferventfinance.com. On Reversion to the Mean, Justin and Kevin will discuss the week's top financial Twitter shares and distill them down to what's necessary and what's noise. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Nothing discussed on this podcast should be considered professional advice. The opinions expressed by the hosts are theirs and theirs only.
Welcome to episode 41 of Reversion to the Mean. This week, we're kicking it off with a Wall Street Journal piece about Amazon and how they're paying employees $10,000 and up to 3 months of pay to quit and start delivery firms. Now, Justin, you and I had discussed this a few months ago where Amazon had kicked off their original program where they wanted non-employees to start these, I think they call it last mile delivery services. So basically you lease a van and you deliver from like the last couple miles to somebody's house, the packages from Amazon. And apparently it must not be doing as well as they had hoped, because now they're even offering employees it's kind of like a venture capital type model where they're giving employees 10 grand and 3 months pay to quit and start their own delivery firms. I think, I guess it kind of makes sense just because they've already been through Amazon's hiring process. Maybe they're having issues with some of these, delivery services where the people aren't, are crushing boxes or driving too fast through neighborhoods or things like that, where, at least these people, they know they've kind of been through the Amazon process. So maybe they're more confident in them, or they just need more bodies.
My thought was like you, that the open market isn't working very well, so they have to go to the Amazon employees. I wonder if it's really worth it for the Amazon employees to do it. Like, is 10,000 plus 3 months salary enough? I remember they mentioned that Amazon would also, I don't know if guarantee is the right word, but they would have routes for them. So it's like, you go do this and we'll feed you enough to be able to go make this work.
Yeah.
But I wonder what that looks like and if that dries up. The entrepreneur in me loves this. Like, I'm thinking, okay, I get a jump start to start my own business doing this, and maybe I can pick up some other things as well and build something bigger on Amazon as the foundation. But now I'm going to go drive for Walmart or whoever else as well and hire a couple other people and make my own little shipping and delivery business thanks to Amazon. So I like the concept of it. I think it's pretty cool. I just don't know if that's enough incentive for people to walk away from the guarantees of working for Amazon.
Yeah, obviously, I don't think it's going to be like a software developer that's making 300 grand on Amazon that's going to do this. It's, maybe it's someone in the distribution, warehouse who they're a manager or something, because you need 30 grand liquid to do this, because Amazon wants to make sure you're going to be able to cover your expenses from the start. But at the same time, I don't think there's that much risk if Amazon's guaranteeing you these routes. So you kind of have the revenue kind of guaranteed from the start. But yeah, it's probably, more middle management and not the people out in San Fran that are going to be doing this. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, that's all I had on it. I just thought it was kind of cool that they were going that route. The next one you put in, and I'm going to have you lead me through this because honestly, I was too lazy to set up an account. So Morningstar had a piece called "The Foundation of Every Proper Investment Plan," and I was only able to read the first paragraph. And I believe it talks about goals-based financial planning, and that being the foundation for every investment plan, but I'm not sure. So you lead me through it and I'll give you some thoughts.
Well, first off, you're a financial planner and you don't have a free account to Morningstar. This is preposterous.
I use other stuff for my market research. I have enough other sources to read. I think it's preposterous that I have to sign up for a free account to read this article.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, so Christine Benz, who I think heads up like the personal finance, financial planning space over at Morningstar, and I like what she writes. This one is about the foundation of every proper investment plan, and she kind of walks through the steps of building out a financial plan. And I think it's more geared towards the Morningstar reader who might be like a DIY investor. And the 4 steps that she lays out are: number 1, articulate your goals and segment them by time horizon. Second one is quantify your goals. Third one is assess, funding status. How much do you have saved for that goal? How much do you need to save for that goal? And then lastly, prioritize your goals. And I think this is just a good perspective to get for the DIYer, because maybe you have a goal where you're like, okay, the kids, I have the kids college funded, and now I want to maybe save for that lake house. Well, if you don't actually sit down and kind of calculate out how you're going to do that and set a plan, 5 years are going to go by and you're going to be like, oh wait, I still want that lake house and I haven't made any progress towards that goal, or whatever your goal may be. So I think it's just good to take a step back and think about this, actually plan ahead and have those, I think, smart goals. And so something you can strive for, and it's not just this ambiguous thing that you're kind of aiming for, and you can take the steps of action to actually get there. And for the DIYer, I think it's good to see this, and because you don't intuitively think about setting goals that way, maybe.
That's not the direction I thought I was going to go, but I have some comments, and I also have some comments on where I thought I was going to go. So I thought it was going to be talking about how you build the investment plan specific to each of the goals. And maybe she did mention this, meaning if you have the goal for college or the goal for retirement, your portfolio that's tailored to those goals needs to be set one way, which may be different than the lake house you might want to buy in 5 years or something like that. So I was thinking of, if you build out your plan based on individual goals, depending on the time horizon, how much you need, what you need to work for it, then from there you can back into, okay, here's how you need to structure the investment part of the plan, more conservative or not as growth and risky if it's shorter term, be a little bit more risky going long term, and that's how you tailor the investment plan. So I thought that's the direction it was going to go. I do like the thought of doing goals-based planning, which not every financial advisor does. Like, financial planning software for the long time gave you a probability of success of the whole plan. So you couldn't assess, are you on track for this goal? And now we need to work on this goal. And I like to try to plan it out that, all right, here's all of the individual goals that you have, whether it be long-term, short-term, annual kind of travel goals. And then let's build recommendations for each of those and make sure we're on track for each. And when one's on track, we can kind of move our attention to another one. So I do think it's better to break out your overall big plan into those individual goals and attack those one by one. And then I think that allows people to work towards multiple goals at once, when sometimes we focus on one goal and neglect the others. And to your point, 5 years goes by and we've never started anything for college, where we can plan for retirement and college and some other things all at once if you separate them out rather than have them all lumped together.
And she did kind of talk about your first point there, where sometimes throughout the investment process, people might get bogged down in the beginning of something more sophisticated like asset allocation, and selecting securities to put into your portfolio instead of doing the goals based first. So I think her point was just do the goals based first, so then you know what kind of risk you can take with regards to those kind of buckets of money, saving for retirement versus saving for the vacation versus college versus whatever. So yeah, your point was on point there too.
I'm feeling good that I didn't know that's what Christine Benz said, and that's what she said. So I feel good about my skills. So financial infidelity is next up.
Yeah.
NPR had a piece about that. You are more recently newlywed than I am. So I can tell you, as somebody who's been married for a long time, that communication is the key to a successful relationship and successful marriage. And that is very much including the financial side of things. So what made you put this in?
Yeah, I just thought the story was pretty interesting. So it profiles a couple who I think's been married for almost 15 years. And when they had met, they were in their 20s. And it's Ed and Ann. So Ed was 23 and he had all his finances in order. I think Ann had graduated, was in dental school or graduating dental school. So she had a bunch of debt. So she liked that Ed had his finances in order. And, they get married and then they start having kids, and Ed stays at home with the kids while she is a dentist, I believe. So, life goes on and he decides that he wants to start a new career. So he goes back to school to be a therapist and starts his own financial therapy business. And off the bat, the business doesn't really take off like he wanted to, and it seems like he was just kind of struggling with that and having some personal issues with regard to how his business wasn't as successful as he wanted it to be. So instead of talking to his wife about it, he went out and racked up, I believe, $20,000 of debt without telling Anne. And obviously, when she found out about this, she was pretty pissed off. And so they call it, financial infidelity, right? So you're not cheating in the traditional sense, but you're cheating with regards to your finances, where taking on debt is obviously something that I think we will all agree that a couple should discuss before they go off and do it. And there's really there's no conclusion to the story here. They basically say, hey, this is what happened. She was upset. They work their way through it, and he's kind of overcoming his personal obstacles. But the conclusion was just, come forward, the sooner the better. So instead of racking up this debt, he should have just talked to her about whatever personal issues he was having with regards to the business, and they could have planned a regarding it together instead of separately, and kind of hid these secrets. So I don't know, have you seen this happen before, or what's your take on it, Justin?
Honestly, the only time I've ever seen stuff like this is when somebody's going through a divorce, and oftentimes that's a big part of it. Um, I don't care where the cheating happens, whether it's physical, emotional, financial. Like once you break that trust, it's like regardless, because at this point it's okay, you lied to me or didn't tell me about all this stuff. What are other things? Even if you weren't doing things, your spouse is going to be questioning everything. It can't be good for the marriage. So the times I have seen it, it's been meeting with somebody going through a divorce. I do think, and I don't necessarily know if this would be, it wouldn't prevent it, but I think having a financial advisor, a third party that you meet with regularly, could help maybe not eliminate, but reduce the chance of these things happening. I mean, they could have had an advisor, and he could have been hiding the credit card all that way as well. But I don't know, as you're having those conversations, maybe that's a safe place to kind of bring things up. Financial advisors asking how's business going, and maybe there's a chance for a third party to help be that. But the whole financial literacy, like therapy thing that he was, or the financial therapy that he was doing, is kind of the housekeeper syndrome. I had a client long time ago, not a client anymore, that one of them was a housekeeper, and I went to their house and it was filthy. And it's like they had cleaned houses all day long. The last thing they wanted to do was come home and clean their own house, so it was dirty, which is just kind of funny. So interesting that he didn't practice what he preached, but I'm sure there's a lot of professionals in our industry that have the same situation. I do imagine that. I think sometimes maybe those things start innocently, like let me borrow a little bit here, and then it kind of spirals out of control. And that's to the point where you just need to fess up and say, hey, this didn't go as planned. I did some things I wish I wouldn't have done. How do we fix this, and how do we figure it out? And I think there would still be some anger, but if you bring it forth and talk it through it and include your spouse, I think it's much more likely that you guys work through it better than you would trying to hide it and go at it on your own.
Yeah, and he had said that he kept his secret under wraps, all the while hoping his business would grow and he could repay the credit card debt. Instead, the debt grew. So, it's kind of deceptive the way that going around it that way is, because you're hoping that your future gains will cover up your mistakes of the past. And I don't think that's obviously the best way to go about it, but every couple is going to be different. I with regard just to how you plan the personal finances around couples, just be transparent, whether that's, each couple gets a couple, $200 a month to spend it however they want to, and you budget for it that way, or you just discuss purchases. And that's the route that my wife and I go, is if we are going to make a big purchase, we just discuss it. And obviously we wouldn't take on debt before, without telling each other, but I don't want to, say anything bad about this couple. Obviously this guy was going through some stuff, and shit happens, but I think at the end of the day, we should just be transparent with our spouses.
I do think that having joint accounts. I mean, I've met with couples that they have their own individual accounts that they put money in. They have a joint account, but I do think making everything joint from estate planning reasons aside, just from a transparency. And he opened up a card in just his name, so you can still get around it. But I think if you have everything joint and each person has the ability to access everything and knows where everything is, that sets up to have a better foundation as well. And I only had one other thing I was going to say. The whole I'm going to hope that my future gains can fix this. Like that's what got Bernie Madoff, right?
Yeah. I think that was into the billions. Luckily, this guy stopped at 20,000. So the next piece I shared from Investment News, only 13% of adult children would use their parents' financial advisor. And the reason I shared this one is, number one, I wanted Justin's take on it. And number two, I just wanted to say, No kidding. I wasn't surprised by this number at all for a few reasons, but I want to get your take on it first, Justin.
Well, I had made a couple of notes. So this, I agree. I don't think it's surprising for a couple reasons. Most older advisors who you would assume that the parents are working with today don't have a model for young clients along the way. So when they get this money, there's no relationship. Why would they stay? Secondly, they probably don't relate to that advisor because they are older. And if you look at our profession, the older advisors, not all, but older advisors stereotypically have older business models. They don't really understand what young professionals are going after. There's a whole disconnect between baby boomers and millennials about, quality of life and all that type of stuff. So there's just not a lot in common to keep them there. But it's not all the advisor's fault, because I'll talk about this from my personal experience. I would say I know a decent amount of my clients' children, but I wouldn't be 100% positive they would stay with me. And it's not from my own lack of effort of trying to get to know them, that a lot of the children have no interest in financial planning right now because they don't think they need it, or they don't think they can afford it. So while I may have tried to incorporate them in the planning, their parents have tried to incorporate in their planning, they've had no interest. So I have a subscription model. I am younger, but I'm still not certain that money would stay with me if my clients passed away. And I don't think it's fully on me. Maybe there's more I could do, but it also is on the children to express interest in learning about it and knowing what's going on, if that's an interest. So like, I've had clients be willing to pay for some hourly planning with me, like as a Christmas gift for their kids, and the kids didn't want it. So, it is both sides. But I would say, from the advisor standpoint, most firms aren't attractive just by the design of the way the firm is set up. That's beginning to change. But what I'm anticipating is a lot of this money that's going to change generations coming up is going to stay with younger firms like mine, because we've been working with the young professionals all along the way. And now we already have that relationship. So I would say, if you're an older advisor and you care about the longevity of your company, start incorporating some planning relationships geared towards young professionals that you can talk to your clients about and educate them about their kids. And maybe the kids will start coming in. And if you have that model, even if you don't know them, maybe the fact that mom and dad trusted you makes you trustworthy enough, and that they see that you work with young professionals, they might give you a shot. But if your whole business are old retirees and this young couple gets it, why would you expect them to stay?
Yeah, when I think of, quote unquote parents advisor, I think of the 65-year-old white male wearing a suit and a tie in the office building downtown. And unless the child or children were part of that relationship from the start, and they would go to the meetings and they knew this individual, and they're, I'm sure that a lot of these people become good friends, and I'm sure you can attest to that. So, I'm sure that's the 13% right there, is those people who have built relationships with the advisor over time. For the other 87%, they don't want to work with someone who's 65. If you're 35 or 40, you want an advisor who's going to be there for the next 30 years. And if your advisor's 65, I'm sure they can work till 75 now, but that's only another 10 years. So I definitely think they'd want someone younger, first off, and I think they'd probably want someone more like them. Someone who's a grandfather. You might not want advice from them on starting your family or starting a business. It's all stuff they did 30 years ago. You want someone, at least in my mind, that's going through the same things as you, or went through them 5 or 7 years ago, not 30 years ago. So I just think you need someone more relatable, and that's what the children will want, not someone a little older. Now, I'm sure those 13%, they built relationships over the years, and it's going to be a great relationship. And maybe if it's a bigger firm, that 65-year-old advisor can hand off those relationships to someone else in their firm if they have a succession plan like that, or a bigger firm. So it could be different there. But yeah, I don't think people want someone that's worked with their parents just because they worked with their parents. That's not going to get you over the finish line there.
I feel like our listenership is going to go down in the next week. Any advisor that listens to us that's 55 or older is just unsubscribed to the podcast. All right, so Morgan, it's been a little while. So I feel like since we had some Morgan Housel on here, so we're time. So he had a good piece. I put it in my mixtape this week: realistic personal financial hacks. I'll let you go first on what you liked about this, and then I'll chime in after you.
Yeah, I thought all 6 were were good. I agreed with them. Um, some of them are harder to do than others. So the first one was accepting that living below your means requires suppressing your ego to below your income. I think this one's really hard to do. We're always comparing ourselves to others, our coworkers, our family, our friends. Just see them going and buying a new car, and we have our 10-year-old car, or they're going up, buying a bigger house, or it's just things we see because social media is in our lives pretty regularly nowadays, and it just makes it harder to kind of stay in your silo without comparing yourselves to others. And I'm not saying comparison in and of itself is bad, but if you're comparing yourself time and time again, then it can wear on you. So I think number one is extremely important, but I think it's also very hard to do. And I think you get better at it over time. I think I'm progressively getting better at it, but I'm still not all the way there specifically with that one.
And I don't think you have to be all the way there as long as you're doing all the things you need to be doing. So if you're saving a good amount and progressing towards your goals, I think you allow the luxury of falling victim a little bit to that quote unquote weakness that we may have of wanting to kind of keep up with people. It's not a bad thing. It's just when you do it too much and you let it get out of hand. I thought number two tied back to NPR's piece real well. The a spouse who sees eye to eye on spending. And I was going to do this at the end, but I'll do it now. I had a couple that I was going to add to Morgan's list, and one of them kind of is I don't know, a tangent off of a spouse who sees eye to eye. But I said, pick your friends wisely. So just as you would want a spouse who kind of is the same way as you and understands where you guys are going, if you have friends that aren't living the same lifestyle that you want to have. So if you're focusing on financial independence and you have friends that are always going out or buying all that expensive stuff, knowing that it's hard to not get caught up in that, maybe you find yourself a new circle of friends that have the same visions, or at least are at least the same financial responsible level as you are. So it's less, take that temptation out of the way. Like if you know that that's tempting to you, remove yourself from that situation, surround yourself with people that are like you so you can feed off of them and help you move in the right direction.
Yeah, I don't know if we can be friends anymore, Justin. You buy too much stuff. I can't keep up.
I'm pretty sure you bought some Mac Weldon pants and I had no influence on that.
Just kidding. Yeah, totally agree with you there. And on that point, with regard to a spouse who sees eye to eye on spending, his last sentence in that point was, "Don't get divorced." Now, obviously, that can create financial ruin, and besides the whole, emotional and other problems it can bring, it definitely will potentially hurt your finances as well. And the other one that I really liked was I don't want to say I really liked it, but the one that caught my eye was number 6. Pick a career that may not be your passion, but pays a decent wage. I think this is good and bad advice. I kind of struggle with it because I've gone the route where I'm an accounting major. I'm an accountant. I have my CPA. That's the route I've gone for the last 10 years. And it's, allowed me to pay off my student loan, save for retirement, do some other things. But it's obviously not something I am passionate about. So, I kind of struggle with that sometimes. And obviously, I've gotten my CFP and contemplated a potential career change down the road that hopefully will potentially change that. But, I think it's good advice from the start. And I know some people have said, I think Scott Galloway's one of them, is, this is a good thing to do at first. So you get your financial ducks in a row and put some money aside, and then down the road you can kind of go find those passion projects because you have such a good foundation financially ahead of time.
I had number 6 written down as well, kind of as a love hate also. I said initially I didn't like it when I read the headline because I am somebody who wants people to follow their passion and do things that they enjoy, because I think that allows you a better quality of life when you enjoy what you do. And I'm fortunate enough that I live that life, which is why I want everybody to live it if they can. But then as I actually read through it, so I read the headline, reacted, and I actually read what he was writing. It made more sense about what I wrote down was, it's better to have a job that you just think is okay, you're not passionate about, if it has good income, versus doing something you're passionate about and not making anything in any money. So I think if you can put yourself in a position where you can create that passion project or passion career and it drives income, that would be ideal, obviously. But I do like the idea of just getting out there, getting yourself established, building a foundation so that one day you can make that change. And also, I don't know how many people right away know what they're passionate about. Like I have always been a financial advisor. I've been in the profession, made my way through, but even when I first started, I was nowhere near as passionate as I am about it today. And I just lucked out that I went down the right path from the beginning. But I think a lot of people go in thinking they like one thing, they do it for a couple of years and realize it's not their passion. So it's not a bad thing to go out, get some experience, make some good money, lay the foundation, determine what it is that you like, and then see, can you make that a reality?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. People change, and your hobbies will change, and the things you like will change. So, yeah, it's probably a good idea to have a good financial footing in the beginning, and then you can kind of peruse those things later on. And if you don't like them, it's not going to really make or break you.
The other hack I was going to put out there is it's a different hack. It's not a behavior hack, but anytime we talk about making financial things easier, automation is a big hack. Just set some stuff up automatically. We've talked about it before. So whether it be savings, whatever, but automate as much as you can so you can get it set up. You can get things going. You can, set it and forget it and move on. So automation was the other hack I was going to add to his list.
So we have a tweet, Justin, that you shared from the White Coat Investor, who is a MD that has written about personal finance and financial independence and investing. You shared his tweet about financial independence. Why?
First off, I'm not a huge White Coat Investor fan. I know you are, but he shits all over advisors and he does it, which is fine. There's a lot of advisors that deserve it, but I don't like when there's a blanket dumping on the whole profession, not separating out the people who are doing it right. It'd be like me saying you should not go to a medical doctor. You should go to only somebody who's doing natural medicine because they're not getting influenced by the pharmaceutical companies who are giving them free lunches and free dinners and all this stuff. Like we could go down that path with medicine as well. And I wonder how he would receive that. But the reason I put it is I don't necessarily agree with all this. First off, I don't know his definition of financial independence. To me, financial independence is being in a position where maybe you don't have to rely on that corporate career, but you don't have $10 million setting up that you're set forever. So maybe it's you can leave that job that you don't really love, go do your passion, derive a smaller income from it because you have other things set up in the background. But even if you're financially independent, and I'm thinking more of the younger crowd, is I'm assuming who he's writing about. I'm not thinking he's talking about a financially independent retiree. It may be his, but I'm assuming this is a younger person. I still think there's a need for an emergency fund. And maybe his definition is that you have the assets somewhere else.
Yeah.
But things come up that I don't think you ever don't need liquid cash in the form of an emergency fund. So his tweet, I'm sorry, is things financially independent people don't need. And there's 10 things. Emergency fund is number one. Life insurance, depending on age, again, I think that even if you are financially independent at a young age, if something happens to one spouse, depending on what the plan is, I still think life insurance has a part in someone's life while they're younger. If you have kids and everything, things change. Kids get sick. Somebody gets sick. I think a term policy for 20, 30 years, even if you're financially independent, isn't something you should go without. Disability insurance, depending again what financial independence means. If you're not working, then obviously there's no need for disability insurance because there's no income to derive it off of. But depending on what the picture looks like, disability insurance might not be something you would necessarily want to go out with. I have less of an issue with that, but I still think there could be a need for that. And then debt, leverage, bankruptcy risk. Just because you're financially independent, I don't think you should eliminate using debt if it's smart. Like if it's time to get a new car, you can get 0% financing and now you have debt. Should you avoid that? Hell no. You should get the 0% interest. So I just blanket things like these frustrate me because all it is, and it works. We're talking about it. We're giving him a platform, but it's clickbait stuff. I don't think that you should put those blanket things out there and say that those are all bad when many people who are wealthy beyond generations of wealth, they use debt all the time in a very financially responsible way and leverage it, which is why they get that wealth. So you could be even better. Your financial independence could be even better if you wisely use debt to your advantage. Don't just say you shouldn't do it. So that's the only reason. And I know you like him, so I just wanted to see if I could get you mad.
I'm not mad, but I am a fan of Jim, so I'll stick up for him a little bit here. So he's pretty transparent, and he doesn't blanket hate all financial advisors, but his target audience is medical residents and practicing physicians, and those are a demographic that get targeted by some of these. Now I won't call them financial advisors; I'll call them salesmen. And there's products that get pushed to these physicians where they aren't educated about personal finance. They don't go through personal finance classes in med school or in college, and they're graduating from med school. They have a ton of debt, but they're going to have these big incomes down the road once they're finished with residency. And so they're just a target for some of these crappy products. And so he gets written. People write to him time and time again about, what do I do with this product that was sold to me, years ago? What do I do with it? And so, I'm sure he just gets frustrated with those type of, the people that call themselves financial advisors. And he also targets people that are DIYers. But he acknowledges that some people it's just better to pay for. It's not something they want to put the time and effort into researching. So for those, pay someone a fair amount. I think he likes more, an hourly structure or a, kind of retainer model rather than AUM. So him and Rick Ferry are kind of buddy there, I think. But I just had to get that off my back. Second, I kind of, I think you're right. These are blanket things. So obviously they're not going to apply to everybody. I think with financial independence, he was just kind of going with a basic definition of, this, I think 25 times your expenses. Life insurance, term is extremely cheap. I agree with you. And I think he's still holds term insurance just because of how cheap it is, even though he's financially independent a couple times over because of his website and medical, career. But, life insurance is just so cheap that I agree with you with that one that, even if you're financially independent, why not? Right. It's cheap. So, but the rest of these, they're going to apply to some people and not others. I'm okay with that. I think most of them make sense. Basically, he's a boglehead, so a lot of these are just simplifying things. So your point on debt, leverage, bankruptcy risk, if you have a few $1,000,000, why even put the strain on you to get that debt if it's just you might benefit in the spreadsheet, but if you're only going to come out ahead a few $1,000, what's the point at the end of the day if you're already financially independent? And I think that's just the point he's trying to make. You don't need to get complex anymore if you've already won the game. And well, this is going to allude to my recommendation, but Bill Bernstein always says, if you've won the game, you don't need to play anymore. So I think those go hand in hand.
All right, I just want to get your thoughts were. I don't have anything else to add to it. I do agree with like, you don't need complicated portfolios. You don't need overly risky portfolios. And honestly, I don't think anybody really needs that. Loaded up. I mean, some of them I do agree with. I think a job, again, financial independence, depending age and long term, maybe you still do need a job. I mean, what are you going to do with your time? So this goes into the whole FIRE. We're financially independent. We don't work yet. We have a blog that gives us all this income type of thing. So I don't know what just happened to you, but our YouTube video is going to be messed up now. You dropped off. You're back. Right. All right. All right. So I don't have anything more on that, but I know that you like him. So I just want to see what you would say. And then the final one is the WTF of the week. There was a 3-foot, metallic rabbit that sold for $91 million at a live auction. And of that $91 million, I don't know what's more crazy. $80 million for the actual sculpture. It was $11 million to Christie's, which is the company that facilitates this, for just having the auction. Wow. Like $11 million to get people there. That's not a bad gig.
Yeah, I mean, this is just plain old signaling. When you're this rich and you want to spend $91 million on a piece of art that looks like a balloon animal, that's just signaling. You want people to know that you're rich, and maybe they thought you were rich, but you want them to know you're even more rich than that. So yeah, it's crazy. I've never really understood the fine art market, and I listened to Planet Money, the podcast, and they kind of talk about this quite a bit just because it's so interesting. But I don't really have much to say other than why, right?
Did you see who won it?
Yeah, it's our Treasury Secretary's father.
Yeah, that's just a bad look right there too. Like, if you're the Treasury Secretary, hey Dad, don't go buy an $80 million plastic or metallic bunny just because that makes it look bad.
One thing that's crazy about this is Jeff Koons, he's alive. Like, he just made this, I guess, recently, this piece of art. So usually when you see these huge prices, it's for artists that died 300 years ago, and this guy's still alive. So is he getting that $80 million? Because it looks like the buyer pays the Christie's fees of $11 million. So is that $80 million just go to him?
I don't know.
It's
I need to
crazy.
be an artist.
Stupid money. All right. Any recommendations this week, Justin?
Yeah, my recommendation for the week is AER bags. I don't think I've talked about these yet. If I have, I recommend it again. So Patrick O'Shaughnessy put this on the radar. There's certain people that when they put stuff out, I immediately go look at it because I know that they tend to put a lot of thought and research behind before they put something out there. So, anyways, these bags are like backpacks, but you can really pack a lot in them. So I have one. I actually bought two. So I bought the first one, which is a backpack slash kind of like carry-on bag as well. So you can pack clothes as well as your laptop and everything. And when I went out to Santa Monica earlier this year, I was actually able. I'm a huge overpacker. I was actually able to pack my couple days trip clothing and shoes in this bag with everything else. So when I came back, I looked at their other bags and I have one now that I carry to work. And the reason is I love the organization inside of them. They have all these different pockets, which for me is perfect because I have a lot of technology that I carry with me. Like I always have a camera on me. I always have lapel mics on me because I never know when I'm going to shoot a video. So I've got to have that stuff with me. And there's little compartments inside my backpack that have all that. There's a spot for my laptop, a spot for my iPad. So it's very, very clean, and the organization on it is awesome. So I can carry a lot of stuff on there. So AER bags. I drink the Kool-Aid, as Patrick O'Shaughnessy warned me when I bought the first bag.
Are you upset that you can't bring 9 pairs of kicks with you when you travel, though?
No, well, it depends on how long I'm going to go. I'll bring two carry-ons. That's my problem. So, like, I have a hard time picking outfits where I can wear the same shoes for all the outfits, and I like fashion. I like to look nice, and I like to coordinate. So that's my problem. And on top of that, I like to work out when I travel. So even if I could bring one pair of dress shoes, I have to bring a pair of workout shoes. And that's where the problem becomes. Wear a size 12. I have big feet. My shoes are big. I'm 6'1". My clothes are big. So it's like hard to get everything in one bag.
Tough life. So my
Yeah. First world
recommendation,
problems.
yeah, my recommendation is a new podcast from Christine Benz and Jeffrey Patak of Morning Star. It's titled, well, the podcast is called The Long View, and their first episode was an interview with the GOAT Bill Bernstein, and I just love hearing Bill talk. He was a neurologist, I think, in his previous career, and then he transitioned to be an asset manager, and he did a ton of research on investing, and he just speaks so eloquently about investing in the financial planning process, but while still being, it's still very easy to understand and digest. So you can definitely tell he's done this a time or two before, and I'm hoping the rest of the interviews that they have throughout this new podcast are just as good.
All right. I haven't listened to it yet, but I'll check it out on your recommendation. You got anything else?
That's it.
All right. Show notes at the usual places, ferventfinance.com, allaboutyourbenjamins.com. We would love for you to give us a review, 5 stars, if you think it's worth it, to help us get in front of more people and have more ears listen to us. So thanks for listening. We'll see you all in the next episode. You're not going to say bye?
Have a great week.